Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar this morning titled When Going Green in Golf Means So Much More, which is a Stellenbosch Golf Club case study. We've got none other than Dr. Chris van der Merwe, who's the GM at Stellenbosch Golf Club, who's going to take us through the presentation today, where we'll be covering a few elements such as be realistic, both on effort as well as impact, do it for the right reason, set your own targets, pick the low-hanging fruit, and it's all about gradual but consistent improvement. So without any further ado, Dr. Chris van der Merwe, thanks so much for joining us today, and we really look forward to your presentation.
Thank you so much, Francois, and welcome everybody. It is indeed a great privilege for me to talk to you today. Thank you to the PGA and Adrian. Francois invited me. And nice to see some familiar faces here. Quite a few from Stellenbosch, so it's nice to see you guys. And I hope you enjoy the presentation. So just a little bit, I'm talking to you about environmental matters. I started out in my life as a scientist at the University of Johannesburg, but I obtained a PhD and in zoology. But since then, as you know, in a field of science, you know more and more about less and less, until you in the end knows everything about nothing. So my approach in life is a little bit broader than that, and I find myself in a very privileged position to lead Stellenbosch Golf Club as the manager, and I hope to share some stuff that we have done over the last couple of years. Been here now for 11 years, and I will share some of that with you. So what would I like you to take away from this today is basically four things, as Francois said. I want to leave a message with you that we need to be realistic about the real impact we have. So everybody does have an impact on the world, but we're not going to change the world or make it different, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. I then want us to do it for the right reasons. I would like us to address the environment holistically in all its facets, and the human part of it as well, the social part of it. My main message basically is the Stellenbosch message, which set your own targets and pick the low-hanging fruit and get started. And then maybe a message of inspiration afterwards to say, let's just do it. Before I start, I think doesn't matter who you are, golf is a tough game, and every golfer knows there's some adversity, but we have received a lot of bad news or bad press that golf clubs all over the world is getting. And if you open up any search engine today, you will immediately, and you type in golf and its impact on the environment, it is 90% is negative. CNN says climate change crisis, golf courses on borrowed time as Earth's weather patterns become wilder. The Pakistan environmental news says negative environmental impact of golf courses, and then they list that water resources, salinity, fertilizers, poisonous, eutrophication, loss of biodiversity, improper land use. And then the planet is burning. Why do golf courses exist? So I think one needs to, these things are all negative and all impacting on us, but it's of course not really the case. Our first takeaway today is, let's be realistic about what golf courses means for the world and what are their impact on the world. So if we look at South Africa, we have a total land area of 1.2 million square kilometers, and golf courses, the manicured area of golf courses, if there are 450 golf courses, as some may aver, the real total area of 450 golf courses with a 30-hectare manicured area in each of them is about 13,500 hectares. So it's 0.01% of South Africa's land mass. So one has to be immediately, one see that whatever you do can't really change the country's impact on water or on fertilizer and everything else. If we come a little bit closer to Cape Town and the Winelands, the area of Cape Town and the Winelands area is 23,000, almost 24,000 square kilometers. We have 27 golf courses. There was a very renowned environmentalist that works in South Africa and in golf, who recently talked about golf courses in the Cape Town area. The total impact in land area is 0.03%. So again, we talk about 8.1 square kilometers. If you put everything together, and it's really, it has a very small impact on what we want to achieve. So we need to be realistic. We're not Superman. We're not superhuman and can change the world by making any changes. But we have to make small changes. And I think that if we can go away today and say, well, there is a small difference I can make. But of course, in doing that, I'm always reminded of this very great book. If any of you ever read it, Legacy, from James Kerr. It's published in 2013, and it deals with the All Black story. And at the time, it's very, very much like the Springboks today. I think if we publish a book on Springboks today, we'll come to similar. But the All Blacks, for about 50 years, has got an 86% success rate in rugby. Now, that's hugely above the norm for a sports team. Even Manchester United and some great teams of the past never come to this sort of winning rate of 86%. And this book, one of the big messages is that if you want improvement, if you want to make 100% improvement onto anything, there's basically two ways of doing it. You do one thing 100% better, or two things 50% better, or you do 100 things just 1% better. And it's the bottom part that struck a chord with me in the way we're doing things, and to say, well, it is gradual but consistent improvement, and we really want to do small things a little bit better, a little bit more in favor of the environment we live in. So it comes me to do it for the right reasons. The natural environment, as we know it, is basically everything. It's us as humans. It's every interface we have with everything. It's all about the natural environment. The difference why I speak to you today and why I think it's important is that people that are involved in the golf industry, we are the custodians of an unprecedented opportunity. There is just, if you think about it, there's very few other people that sits on a piece of open land within an urban landscape that can affect change, that can impact on in the community that they live in and that they do it. As I said, we can't change the world and we can't change global warming, but we certainly can make it better for the community that's around us. And we are the custodians of that area. And that's why it's important for me that we should really start doing every effort we can to make this a better opportunity. I'm going to talk a little bit about our golf club, Stellenbosch Golf Club. And I want to firstly say that the important thing is there's low-hanging fruit out there that one can pluck. We looked at 5 things. We looked at our water. This came about with the 2017, 2018, that summer drought there when we had day zero in Cape Town, or very close to day zero in Cape Town. and we had to do something about it. How do we protect ourselves against that in years to come? The second thing I'm going to talk a little bit about our waste. Again, we can't make any iota's difference to the Stellenbosch area's landfill site, whether we put extra tonnage of waste in there or not. But it's a nice project, and I think something that every golf club should aspire to, if possible. I want to talk a little bit about energy. This is a bigger project that we undertook a few years ago, also driven by a crisis with the load shedding, but has huge results for us currently. I want to talk a little bit about the tree planting opportunity, because we sit here on 70 hectares of open land. It is a wonderful opportunity for us to plant trees, and how we did this. And then general biodiversity, which is my pet subject, or what I really studied in and enjoyed, is to make sure that from the apex predators right through to the lowest levels of diversity in an environmental area, we try to make a difference. So let's start with our water. Stellenbosch Golf Club is a normal golf club like all of yours. We have irrigation on all our fairways and our greens and our tees, but it's limited to that. We don't irrigate outside that area. We are starting with going a little bit wider, but we have about 27 hectares, 25 hectares under irrigation. We get the bulk of our water supply from the Theewaterskloof farm system, the agricultural system. Theewaterskloof is the largest dam in the Western Cape. It actually 50% of the entire Western Cape's water resource is in that one dam. It's still significantly smaller than the Gerrit Dam and the Vaal Dam and others up country, but for Western Cape it is the largest dam, and we get about 60% of the water we're using we get from that dam. We also have a river running just below our golf course, the Blauwklippen stream, and we pump water from there when we can. And we have a storage dam of about 70,000 cubic meter at 70 million liters of water that we can store on site. So when the drought started, we said, well, there's a lot of opportunity here, and we have space. Let's create more storage capacity for the course. In the end, in years to come, I think it will be good if our course can have 100% of our usage a year, which is around 160,000 cubic meters. If we can get that stored on site, that would be the ideal. But you start again. We started by just cleaning up an area that was a dam in years gone by that got a little bit neglected, and we added 15,000 cubic meters of water. Now, you in the golf industry know you put around 1.5 million liters on an average course during a summer during a day, every day. So 15,000 cubic meters gives you another month or half a month of water. But it's a reserve. It's winter rains. If it's not collected, it will go down to the sea and run into the sea. It's also got benefits, but it's not taking from anybody's water. It really is just catching up a bit more. Then we, as a golf course, small things, and I always come back to the small changes. We have a few, we have office park around us and urban areas, and we create storm water, slight indentations on your fairways and things to make sure the water flows towards your dam. And these are very little, no golfer will feel it. The ball may run through a little grass indentation, but it makes sure the water collects and run off from nearby areas, gets actually to your water system. And all of these efforts over the last will probably provide us by a 20% improvement in our water situation that we have. And we will continue with this as years go by and little money becomes, we'll dig new dams and increase storage. As I said, we would like to get from where we now at 85,000 cubic meters. We want eventually to get to 110,000 cubic meters in years to come. Our waste system, and by the way, I'm just going to go through these things, and if there's any questions, you're welcome to stop. I think Francois will call to stop me, but there will be time afterwards as well to ask questions. Our waste system is that we had, like most places, we made use of wheelie bins, and you have a collection system that people come and collect the wheelie bins, and it's a waste yard that is fairly rat infested and not a very attractive area, smelling always. So a while ago, in 2017, we decided to go for a Moloch system, where we dug a hole in the ground, you put a nice little container on top, and you get the hole in the ground's got a big bag that opens at the bottom, so you close it, you drop. It takes about 70, 80 wheelie bins in that container, and then a guy will come with a electronic boom, and he pulls it up, open the bag at the bottom, it falls in and they take it away, and that we call a bin lift. So we were doing about 143, about 3 per week bin lifts, and that was the expensive part, because it's the fuel and the cost of transport to take the things from here to the landfill site. We then decided, well, we're going to at least look at some effort to reduce some of this, to make sure the bin lifts get a bit less. We bought a second-hand 6-meter shipping container that is in rough shape, and we bought a baler. A baler is there that you put in your plastic bottles, your cardboard, and you can densify it or concentrate it, put it in a bale to make it easy to take to a recycling plant. So the total cost of this setup was around 80,000 rand for these two things, and we employed one person to come and do this. We're not sophisticated enough we've tried it, but it's a hard thing to sort, to sort our waste at source. We're trying to do a bit out of the kitchens and halfway house. But basically, this guy sorts and he bales all the recyclable stuff. Now, recyclable stuff is plastic, cardboard, and of course your aluminium tins, your Coke tins, and those sort of things. That get baled, that we take to recycling. Glass, we also collect wine, all the glass bottles and things. You get very little, and we haven't got a system yet. In the end, we hope to acquire a glass crusher, because all of this, the cost here is the transport cost, and you want to try and reduce the transport cost to have the voluminous nature of waste to reduce that. So we reduced our waste to the landfill site by about 27 tons per year by doing the simple thing. We have an annual saving on the waste removal cost that the municipality charge, and the people who came and collect the waste and take it, about 110,000 rand. And that saving is above the salary that we pay the individual that is doing the job here. So we started in 2021 with this, and the saving till now is just more than R500,000 that we have in fact collected or saved that we didn't spend. And saving it's not always new money coming in, but it's an important thing for us. So we're very pleased about the process. It is, what can you say? It's rural. It is not a refined system. There's no big buildings or anything. One always love to have a can crusher, one of these big things that do. We will get there, but at the moment this is working very well, and we're making a difference to the community, albeit a small difference, but certainly to ourselves, we're making a difference by saving money on our waste removal. Energy is a big thing, and this many of these things, if you water and energy, is really a crisis-driven thing. That we had the massive load shedding problems in 2021 and 22, really for the last 5-6 years. But in 2021, it became so bad that we decided to make an investment in our energy and put up for us a solar panel system. We started with 112 panels, 500-watt panels. We put in a 150 kVA inverter, and we ensured we had 300 kilowatt-hour battery storage. Now, any club, we use a lot of energy here. Clubs are incredibly expensive for energy. Your hours are long. You start very early in the morning, you leave late, and energy is a big expense for clubs. And I will come now with the savings and things. But a formal investment is not within everybody's reach. One understands that. We took 2 million from our reserve, from our cash reserves, and we borrowed 2 million from the bank that we are paying back. And the effect of that, between 2022 and 25, we're now spending almost R1 million a year less on energy. But that's the cost that was basically for load shedding. That's the diesel price, and the diesel and the generators are running. And of course, we don't have load shedding at the moment, so the saving is not that. But the increase in electricity cost that a normal person would have had, we are less than half of what a normal person, the increase in Eskom tariffs or municipal tariffs. So if we didn't have it, we would have put, our increases would now be double what the actual increase in is. So our finance and repayment cost on that 2 million rand loan is 176,000 per year, and our electricity cost saving is 350,000 a year. That's just the cost saving in 2025. As the electricity gets more expensive, this goes up and up, and they reckon between a 7 and 8 year period you have recovered your capital investment in this. So it's not for everybody. One understands it. It's a big cost, but it is something that certainly forced on us by the load shedding disaster, but is now paying dividends. And I'm very grateful that we did take that step at the time to take some of the reserves and take some of and go and take a loan to pay for this. And if it's within your means and your club's means, this is something that one should encourage. It is working. My pet thing is planting trees. In the 10 years that I've been here now, we've just planted about 1,000 trees. And I really want to talk more to you about, we all understand and we all know that trees makes a difference to the environment. It's a great asset to the environment, and one does it. But trees are difficult to to see the impact because they take so long to grow. And so it's a very difficult thing to get past your mind and understand. And there's lots of sayings, you know, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. And we all understand it, but you still have to have the discipline to keep going with this. And we've had, and my Stellenbosch College will know that every storm that comes through, you lose 20 or 50 trees, large trees or branches that take on, and you send out a memo to all your members and say, well, look, we've lost a few trees. If anybody wants to donate anything, here's an opportunity. I've seen recently at Paarl, they've got a wonderful program behind there. I think it's their 10th green, and other places as well, a similar thing where members for birthdays or for engagements or for 50-year marriage celebrations or for people who passed away, you come and plant a tree on the golf course, and it makes a difference. We've linked up with the municipality. Stellenbosch has got a fairly nice Arbor Day initiatives. They've got large nurseries, and they've donated now just about 200 trees to us over the 10-year period with all these initiatives. And you invite a few schools and you get the mayor there, and there's no politician that doesn't like their photo taken and put it in a newspaper. So it's a wonderful day, and the good thing for any municipality, as you know, I think a golf course, you have a little bit more protection for it. At least there's someone who's going to water it and make sure it grows. Many of the problems with Arbor Days is that you will plant trees, but the care and the aftercare is just not there, and you lose that. So in 2024, we've had a horrific storm coming through Stellenbosch, and it blew down 80 plus trees, and another 50 odd were badly damaged, with big branches broken off. And we, at the same time, we've heard about a nursery, one of the wine farms. We had a nursery here, and the nursery was sort of neglected, or the maintenance of the nursery was neglected. The trees started to grow through the bags. So they're all very tall and upright trees because they're too close together. And we started, and there was about 400 trees, just more than 400 trees in the nursery. So we went to them and started talking about what would they wanted to clean the nursery and start over. We had a need for the trees, and the first price you get a little bit of a discount of the tree, but not much. As you know, a tree can cost between 80 Rand and 80,000 Rand. It's a hugely expensive thing. But we purchased the whole nursery in the end for 150,000, with the understanding we will remove the trees. We will collect it. We will transport it to the club. It's not far from us. It's about 10 kilometers from the club, and we started putting those trees in for the first couple of months. Every Wednesday, we had this whole tree moving exercise, and at the moment we just got about 300 trees of those onto the course. There's a few more left in the nursery, and this is over a period of at least a year now that we've been busy with this. So trees and planting trees, it works. It's a great thing to do, and every golf course has an opportunity because you have the space, and it's in your rough areas and things. It doesn't always have to be in play and causing problems for golfers, but it does create a fantastic environment in your golf course. Biodiversity, these are all animals that is on our course. The raptors, birds. We've got owls breeding here, lots of ducks. Unfortunately, a lot of the Egyptian geese as well that get removed here from time to time, but there's quite a lot of them. We've got a few small jackal here. We got duiker on the field, all the mouses, the feed for the raptors. So you have a real ecosystem on a golf course. And there's a lot being said. These are green deserts. I've heard that all over and over. And yes, there are certain manicured areas that are green, that are monoculture. You've got grass, and so it should be. But in our situation, Stellenbosch, 40% of our area, we've got a 70-hectare facility or area. 40% of that is manicured grass. 26 hectares is basically our golf course. And outside of that, you have rough and you have different grasses. You have different trees that all provide refuge. And it is arguably the most biodiverse area in our community, in this environment. Surely if you go to a nature conservation area. But this creates a green lung in an urban area that is basically self-funded. And that is incredibly rare to have that you can have a place which you don't have to fund it through tax or to anything else. It funds itself, its members funds it, and it provides this refuge from the predators right through to the prey, which is a fantastic asset. And we that's in the industry as custodians of this asset, it is fantastic for us to be able to do that. So from water, from electricity, trees, waste, biodiversity, we have made small changes. And for me, and I hope for most of you, and it is about gradual but consistent improvement. I know a lot of us want to see quick changes, but one can kill a plan or what I always say, we sterilize an idea so quickly because of the financial impact or the financial cost that will materialize that idea. And my appeal to you is don't do that. Try to see past the big financial costs and see how can I do it within budget and within our ability, our club's ability to make this difference. Because being consistent leads to compounded results. And as Einstein has said, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. It is incredible if you can compound something that 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8. What is there? And success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines. Planting trees every year, 20, 30, whatever. Making sure your refuge, think differently about refuge and think I can make a small. It doesn't have to make money for me, but if it can be a cost saving or cost the same, let's do that. Electricity will cost something, but we are the better off for having done our solar electricity and getting free electricity from the sun. And as I said, water, be realistic and be modest in your attempts, but make sure something is done. So it is my little story for today. Be realistic. You can't change the world. You can do nothing about climate change and those sort of things. One understands that. But do it for the right reasons. We have an unprecedented opportunity, a unique opportunity because of the size of land we are custodians of that make us able to do a difference. I've told you the Stellenbosch way. We set our own targets. We're not forced by environmentalists or by the bad press or anything else. I'm not interested what what real other people thinks about it. But I know we're making a difference. We pick the low-hanging fruit to make sure that we can slowly grow in making it a more environmentally friendly piece of land within our community. And then we're trying to be consistent because it's always about gradual but consistent improvement. And my last little quote here, the secret of getting ahead is getting started. And if I can ask all of you, Francois, that's the end of my story, but let's get started. Let's make sure that golf courses do make a difference to our environment. And that's my story. Thank you for listening, and I'm happy to take any questions or to discuss anything that anybody would like to discuss.
Thanks, Dr. Chris. Really insightful, inspirational session as well. If there's any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask. There you go. Samuel, you can unmute yourself.
Sorry, that was an accident.
No issue.
Yeah. Now, guys,
Morning, Chris.
Sorry.
Morning, Chris. It's Frans here in Konyeni. Are you well?
I'm very well, Frans. Lovely to see you.
You too. Chris, just once again, thank you so much for your presentation. It was fantastic to hear from you again. And well done with all the work you're doing there in Stellenbosch. I really hope that I could come and see it sometime soon. And thank you once again. I just want to basically just thank you once again for your presentation. It's always great to hear from you and to learn more from you. Always a great experience. Thank you.
Thanks, Frans. Me and Frans worked together at Princess Grant for many years. And Frans, it will be an absolute pleasure, not just for you, but any of your colleagues here to come and visit Stellenbosch. We love to show you around. Come and play. We certainly, as I say, there'll be more wrong that you'll find that's right, but it's moving in the right direction. And we feel we're making a difference in our community. And I know you do that in Swaziland as well, or in Konyeni as well.
Thanks, Frans. Any other questions? Dr. Chris, I think that sort of there we go.
Thank you, and please pop in at Stellenbosch. You're all welcome here. You know Louis here, who's so anytime, please pop in and good luck. We're in a great industry and a great job. Let's enjoy it and good luck for it. Thank you very much, Francois, and the PGA for giving this opportunity to me as well.
Thanks, Dr. Chris. We appreciate your input as well, and then we look forward to seeing you there at Stellenbosch.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you at the next webinar. Enjoy the rest of your